Welcome to Journey with the Jays. Thursday night, New Year's Eve. We're all going to be partying. It'll be 2021. We can let this whole year go behind us in a couple of minutes. But let's get to what we're looking for on Sunday. So, Spenser, what do you got going on in the NFL? There's a whole bunch of scenarios. I know for us Giant fans, we got a lot of stuff going on. But why don't you start off tonight?
Yeah, a ton going on this week. First of all, happy New Year's Eve to all you guys. I hope that your 2021 is filled with much more celebration and happiness than 2020 was, especially sports related, because most of our teams stink with the exception of John's. But let's get into it. So the AFC playoff picture is far from over, headed into the final week. We have several teams that are fighting for a shot. The Tennessee Titans right now are the AFC South champs, but did they clinch that, or can the Colts creep up on them and steal it from them?
I believe they can still
steal the same record, so yes.
Yeah.
Same record. There you go. So the Titans are 10-5. The Dolphins are 10-5. They sit in that 5 slot. The Ravens are 10-5. They sit in the 6th slot. The Browns are 10-5. They're in the 7th. You have the Colts in the 8th slot. So ton of teams fighting for their playoff lives. Who do we like to make the playoffs? Who do we think misses out? John, let's start with you this week.
This is interesting. I think the Browns obviously make it because the Steelers are resting their guys. So I'm going to count the Browns making it. Actually, it's interesting how they have it. The Dolphins get in if they win or any of the teams below them lose, especially the Browns. So the Colts need the most help. The Colts need to win and have one of those teams lose. Browns, Ravens, Dolphins just have to win a game. That's it. They automatically get in. Any of those 3 teams or all of them, they all get in if they win. Colts need the most help. Titans have the tiebreaker over the Colts. So Colts lose, Titans get the division. Titans win, they get the division, So it'll be interesting. I'm not sure who's going to get in. I think Browns probably win. Ravens probably win. I don't know if the Dolphins win or not. I'm not sure if Buffalo is going to rest their guys. Miami can beat them, I think, even if they play their guys. But does Buffalo really have anything to play for? I mean, switching between 2 and 3 seed doesn't matter this year because of no bye. So I don't know who's going to get in. I mean, it's going to be crazy, and all those games will be at like 4:30 on Sunday. So because they always move the important games. Week 17 to 4:25, 4:30, whatever, and then one game they flex the Sunday night.
Yeah, I think there's 3 teams that are relatively speaking on the obvious side of making it based on just matchups this week. I think the Browns have one of the easiest games just because Steelers, we know they're going to rest their starters. So the Browns are going to have the regular starters out there versus Steelers backup team. I think that really opens up the door for the Browns to make the playoffs. I mean, they control their own destiny. You just got to win. You're winning, you're in. And against the backup Steelers team, I think they have arguably one of the best shots. I think the Ravens are the next team against the Bengals. Bengals have not been great this season. Obviously, when you're on your backup quarterback and, you lose Joe Burrow like that, your team automatically is not as good as they were. Bengals have obviously, taken a hit when that happened, and we've seen it continue. So the Ravens, again, in terms of just matchups, they have a pretty, relatively speaking, easy matchup. That should be a win. Again, win and you're in. And the other team that I feel pretty confident about is the Titans. Texans have nothing to play for. They'd be playing spoiler at that point. And you can say that about most of these teams, are in a position to play spoiler. So for me, those are the 3 teams that are definitely going to make it in. I think the teams that are, the hardest to get in are Miami and the Colts. The problem is for Miami, and John, I know this is going to kind of suck to say.
Colts play the Jags. Yeah.
Right. The Colts have a really easy matchup. It's just a matter of, does Miami play Buffalo's number one team?
Two things from that. The Colts play the Jags, but the Jags beat them week 1. And the Jags have nothing to lose, so they can play to actually win this game, right? I mean, they're not going to lose the number 1 pick, so they're not going to throw the game away. So they might actually try. So, I mean, there's hope there. And the Dolphins get the number 3 pick in the draft if the Texans lose. So, how about that?
The thing is, for me, is it's going to come down to the Dolphins, really. Between the Colts and the Dolphins is going to rest on the Dolphins and the Bills game. My thing is, if the Dolphins play the Bills A team, they start their starters, they play their starters, and don't really sit them throughout the game, I probably would have to say I prefer the Bills in that game, even though I think it would be close because both teams are really good. The Bills are arguably the next best team in the AFC for me. I really like them. And against the Dolphins, it's nothing against the Dolphins. It's just the Bills are really great. And so then obviously the Colts would just have to win, and I think the Colts can beat the Jags, even though, they beat them week 1, but that was week 1. It's 16 weeks later now. Colts are better. They obviously figured some things out. The team looks better than they did in week 1. Obviously, week 1 is a long time ago. And that's the thing. The Jags are not good. And, they can play for nothing. But, at the same time, they have nothing to play for. So, they can play their hearts out. But at the same time, by that logic, they have nothing to play for. There's no reason for them to necessarily go all out. So it kind of works both ways. So for me, it's going to really, more than anything for the Dolphins game, depend on, are the Bills starters playing? And we don't know that as of now on Tuesday night when we're recording this. If the Bills starters play, I think the Colts get in. If the Bills starters do not play, it's Dolphins all the way, because obviously the Colts need the Dolphins to lose, and I think the Dolphins would have a cakewalk at that point.
I'm going to let the other guys go, but I have something to add to this once the other two guys chime in.
No, go ahead. You can go first.
All right. So this is kind of a long one, but all right. So a couple years ago, when the Pats were number 1 seed, how many times have they done that? I actually wrote an article. I actually tried to share it with ESPN. They turned me down, but it was actually a really good article. It was called "Tanking from the Winning Side," and it was something I came up with. And I thought of this, and I presented it to ESPN. Like I said, they turned it down. But it was actually I thought maybe the Patriots were throwing their Week 17 game that year. I forget what year it was, but I had thought maybe they threw their Week 17 game to avoid certain opponents in the playoffs. And I thought it was an interesting perspective because the Steelers are resting their guys today. They can still get the number 2 seed if they win, and they hold the tiebreaker. Now, my question is to you guys: do you think the Steelers are potentially resting their guys to lose that game to the Browns, so that way they potentially knock out the Dolphins to avoid the Dolphins? Because the Dolphins, I think, are probably a harder matchup for the Steelers than the Colts. I know the Colts played them well, but I'd rather face Phillip Rivers in the cold than I would face Brian Flores and those Dolphins. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's not a bad strategy if you're Pittsburgh to try and avoid, to try and knock out and put the Colts in. The Colts aren't a bad team, but I think I'd rather face them than Miami because they faced the Colts, but they haven't faced Miami.
I'm gonna address this for you. Brian Flores should have been left wherever the team plays. You can't keep taking out your young quarterback.
No, but that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant.
Yeah, no, it is relevant. It is relevant because you're trying to get to the playoffs this year for what?
Right.
You're not going anywhere. So either you're building for the future and you want to win Super Bowls, or you're going to ruin this guy so you don't get anything in the future. So,
JB, do you think that Mike Tomlin is scared of the Dolphins? Because that's what he's saying that. That's what he's saying.
That's ruining a good young quarterback.
But if you're trying to play matchmaker and you're going to get the 2 or 3 seeds, so you're going to face the Dolphins, the Ravens, the Browns, or the Colts, then maybe you're trying to get the Browns. Maybe you're trying to draw the Browns. Maybe you're trying to.
John,
do you think
they're doing what they have to do? They want to rush their starters because this this team has not played well recently. Okay,
and not only that.
And so they need to rest their guys before the playoffs. We see it every single year.
If you haven't played well, you're not going to.
Their bye week got taken away because of the COVID thing. Mm-hmm. You had the Ravens game, which was moved, and all their games were bunched together. They're in the playoffs. It doesn't matter. A good team is going to win no matter what.
No,
Mike
but
Tomlin
I'm saying
is a good coach. He doesn't care who he plays.
I believe the Patriots used to do this, and nobody would take notice because I think this is something that teams do, and you just don't notice. I think that the Steelers are trying to draw the Browns. Maybe it's not even about the Dolphins.
John, I think you're reading too much into this. Coaches rest their starters so they do not, play fatigue in the playoff game, where it matters most. Does this game mean anything to the Steelers other than what you believe to be in terms of, who they draw? But besides that,
that's important.
Would it matter to the Steelers at all?
If you're the Steelers and you let the Browns win, the Browns possibly jump to 6. You drop to 3. So then you end up with a matchup with the Browns. You don't face the Ravens. You skip the Ravens. And then you got to face the Browns? I mean, that's pretty smart. You avoid Baltimore, and then you get the Browns, who are probably the most vulnerable team out of those teams, in my opinion.
Mike Tomlin is not afraid. You're going to say Mike Tomlin.
It's not that he's afraid. It's you want the easiest matchup that you can get, and why not throw your game?
So if Mike Tomlin was in front of you right now, would you ask him if he's coaching a lose on Sunday?
Have you met me? I'm not afraid to ask these questions.
But John, based on your logic, if they lose the game and they get the 3 seed, that means Buffalo slips into 2, and you still have to go to Buffalo. And forget about fans not being there. You want to play Buffalo in that temperature with John.
They're going to go to Buffalo or Kansas City. It really doesn't matter.
Wouldn't you want to play in Pittsburgh? Wouldn't you want to not travel?
Wouldn't you want to have as many games at your home stadium as possible?
But they're going to play in Pittsburgh week 1.
There's something about that second seed that's important, and look,
apparently not to them.
But Ben Roethlisberger is also 100 years old, and he's been hurt 900 times this year.
John,
why are you going to risk that injury in a game? Like,
Spencer makes a great point. John, you constantly talk about Big Ben, right? And you say, and I'm quoting you here, he has a noodle arm.
Yes.
So if you've got a guy that you believe has a noodle arm, and he's old, and he's been hurt, especially last season. Last season was a very bad injury for him, right? Wouldn't you think it's in the best interest of our team's chances of winning to rest our guys, especially also not just because of Big Ben, but this is, I guarantee, Mike Tomlin.
But can it be both? Can it be both? Like you're not only resting your guys, but you're like, hey, we dropped to the 3. We avoid.
It's not about. I don't think he's thinking about that. Here's the other thing that I guarantee Mike Tomlin's also thinking about. Look at the defensive injuries he's had this season.
But Mike Tomlin doesn't make all the decisions. There's other people.
I'm just saying. But just think about. Hold on, just for a second. Think about the defensive injuries he's had. Right, he has lost his key guys. Wouldn't it make sense for him to say, "Okay, let's take an extra week." To rest the guys that we have left so nobody else gets hurt and we don't go down another man because they've already gone down plenty and we've seen it impact them. And B, wouldn't also make sense to just get, other guys out on the field just to see if he's got something else that he may need to replace if someone does go down. Like, let's say, they lose another linebacker because they're extremely thin at that now, right? Right. But if they lose another linebacker, maybe they put out another guy that they play this weekend only to see his talent in a game situation to understand how well they can play if need be. That way, he's not in the playoffs thinking, oh, God, can this guy play for me? Is he going to be good enough? What is his talent level like on the field against legitimate competition? Instead, he has an actual comparison against good starting competition against another playoff team that he may potentially even face. He now knows, hey, this guy can play this position well enough if we need him to. I guarantee you those are things going through his head.
So the second time that Pittsburgh played Baltimore, we won't count that because of COVID. First time they played them, the Steelers were getting their butts handed to them at the half. Roethlisberger had under 100 yards. So they know Baltimore's tough. Colts, we're beating them 24-7. So they know the Colts are tough. They know the Dolphins' defense is tough. They haven't played them. The Browns, they beat 38-6 earlier this year. 38-6. So they know they can handle the Browns. They don't know about the Colts, and they don't know about the Dolphins. I would rather the Browns than any of those teams, because if you get the Browns in by giving them a win, then you knock out one of those other teams, and then that's a double win for you.
Didn't the Browns beat the Ravens just a few weeks ago?
No.
No,
you're right.
But you're right.
They got swept by both teams.
You're right, but they still kept it close. And I think that by your logic saying that they'd be afraid of them, if they can keep it close with the Ravens like that, the Steelers have to be thinking, okay, they can keep it close with us. They're not thinking about these things. They're just really like they could say that about every single team, though. So
but
to say they don't know what the Browns are,
teams try and play chess when others are playing checkers.
To say they don't know what the Browns are is just ludicrous. They know what they are: a potential playoff team that has a great running game, a decent quarterback, nothing great, but still decent enough that can win games. Okay receivers when everybody's actually playing, a decent tight end, a nice young coach.
I'd rather face the Browns than face Lamar Jackson and that defense.
There is no way Mike Tomlin is coaching to lose. I'm telling you what happened. The season was messed up. He's resting his guys. He's giving them the de facto
Sounds
bye
like coaching to lose to me.
No, that's not trying to.
And
pick
John, this is why you're
I-
not an NFL head coach and why you're just analyzing what head coaches are doing.
Look,
Listen,
it's,
John, if you can find that piece from a few years ago,
yeah, I have it. I will send it to you guys.
Replicate it, though. Find more examples. If you can give us a synopsis of teams that have done this throughout the years, I will 100% believe you.
It was the only time I ever wrote this article because it just felt like the Patriots were trying to play matchmaker and avoid certain teams so that they have an easier matchup. And then, you know, in the playoffs, you want the easiest matchup you can get. You don't want to play the Chiefs in the first round or you know what I mean? You don't want to play something like that. You want to play them as late as you can.
And Fooey on ESPN for not accepting your article. If they had accepted it, maybe it would be in the archives.
You play to win the game. Wasn't that Herm Edwards line? You play to win the game.
Not all teams play to win the game. The Jaguars didn't play to win the game this past Sunday.
They're playing to win other games, and that's a completely separate story for another day, and we won't even talk about that. What else is going on, Spencer?
I do want to stay with the AFC East. JB, you touched on it a little bit, but we have to talk about John's Miami Dolphins and what the heck has Brian Flores been doing with the quarterback position? So they were down against the Las Vegas Raiders. He makes the change, puts Ryan Fitzmagic in. Fitzy does his thing, takes him down the field, wins the game in heroic fashion. The final score was 26-25. After the game, Flores says, Tua is our starter. Ryan Fitzpatrick is our relief pitcher. And I'm using air quotes around that because obviously we're talking about football and not baseball. So JB, you started talking about it earlier in the show, but what is he thinking? Do you agree with his logic and how will this blow up in his face?
So first of all, you realize there's people missing in the desert for a lot less. That's all I'm going to say. That was in Vegas. How he got on the plane to come back to Miami after that. You know, you can.
He should be coach of the year.
Coach of the year.
Coach of the year.
John, you're
wow.
funny.
You do not destroy your future to get to a
There
playoff.
ain't no destroying that future. There's no ego in that quarterback room. None.
That's not
Both
what
those
it's
guys
about. It's not about egos.
are humble.
To become a professional athlete, you have pride and ego. It's
There's
automatic.
no ego in that locker room, in that quarterback
It
room.
does not mean that you're an irrational person or you're, going to go after somebody, but you have pride. And when you have pride and you keep getting destroyed like that, because it's not a defensive lineman where they sub out every player or wide receiver. This is a starting quarterback. You can't do that once, let alone twice, to a guy in his first year. After you put him in.
He only cares about winning. That's all he cares about. He doesn't care about feelings. He doesn't care about, people getting upset. He wants to win. That's all that matters.
So they go get Gardner Minshew. They get Gardner Minshew to get rid of Tua. Trade him to somebody who will respect him and give him what he deserves. Because that is the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen in my life.
I actually don't mind it because, look, he's sending a message saying, it doesn't matter if you're the quarterback, the running back, the kicker.
I won't let you
if
throw the ball. I'm going to handcuff you. I'm going to handcuff you, not let you run the offense in a proficient manner, and then I'm going to pull you out because our offense isn't moving the ball.
Here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I want to ask. When Fitzmagic retires, right? Fitzpatrick, he moves on to another team. Maybe he retires. Dolphins don't have this handicap anymore, right? Let's just pretend this scenario exists. We all can agree that this is happening in this scenario. So now it's just Tua as the quarterback. The backup is someone random that, some, freshman, a rookie out of college that you're not going to start in any game unless you must, right? That's the scenario we're in. But Tua's confidence has been destroyed previously because Brian Flores was playing Madden and not real NFL football and subbing out his quarterback, his supposed future quarterback, future quarterback to win games. If Tua starts playing bad in that game, what do you do then? You don't.
But the thing is, they have no weapons for him. In that Raiders game, they had no weapons.
So then why are you taking him out? Let him learn. Let him learn.
They have to win.
Year.
You have
You're
to win
not
the game.
winning the Super Bowl.
You play to win the game, right? Play to win the game.
And to win more games, you need Tua to learn. You not just keep taking him out and handcuffing him.
I would like to bring up a situation from 2004. JB and Jake, you're very familiar with this. The Giants had Kurt Warner as the starter. He was 5-4 with the team. They benched him for Eli Manning. Eli Manning was horrendous his first year. He pretty much stunk it up in almost every game he played in. If Tom Coughlin at that time thought that they should play Warner to win, what would happen to Eli Manning's career? The guy that won 2 Super Bowls for the franchise. He's the franchise's most prolific quarterback, and part of that is because Coughlin let him struggle. When a guy is young and he's a rookie in the NFL and he's supposed to be the face of a franchise, part of that is you have to just let him go out there, let him play, and let him struggle. You saw what Justin Herbert did in the beginning of the year. Wasn't great. Really progressed, has been much better. Joe Burrow, kind of the same thing, right? He caught his stride right before he got hurt. But the reason that if you're a franchise, you play these guys all 16 games is because the NFL is so different from college. And what I'm hearing from JB, and I sort of agree with him, is if Tua is half a game each game and he's getting subbed out for Fitzpatrick, how is he going to be able, and this is to Jake's point, how is he going to be able to handle this turmoil when he fails? There isn't Fitzpatrick, or he's a second or third year player and he has a bad game.
They're actually going to give him playmakers next year. They're going to have the number 3 pick in the draft. They're going to have 3 second-round picks.
We're talking about this year.
You're talking about next. You said next year when Fitzpatrick's not there. So let's go there. Let's not backtrack.
But you're saying weapons are just going to give him confidence.
We're talking about his confidence and ability to play, though. The point of what I'm making
Fitzpatrick is gone,
when he doesn't have when Tua doesn't have this handicap, what you're doing right now is going to destroy his confidence in the future. So when he's stuck in a situation where he just got pulled, what does he do? What he probably does is look at the sidelines to Brian Flores and says, "Hey, coach, what do I do here? Who's supposed to come in and take over for me?" Because guess what? There won't be anybody.
But
and he's going to be stuck not knowing what to do.
What can really happen when you have Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith? You actually have playmakers that can help him out. Your line isn't banged up. Your best offensive lineman didn't play against the Raiders.
So then why did you put him in to start any games this year? What is your end goal, John?
You have to. You give him the best chance to win.
Hold on. Why do you have to? Why do you have to?
Because he gives you the best chance to win.
So then why is he coming out of the game backwards?
Why would you take him out? If he's your best chance, if you have the best chance at winning $1 million, do you put someone else in your place to go win it for you? No, you give yourself the best chance always. So if you're telling me if Tua is the best chance, then why is Fitzpatrick taking over for him?
The Dolphins employed this baseball approach where Tua comes in for 3 quarters. 4th quarter, the closer, Ryan Fitzpatrick, comes in, shuts the door down, and they end up winning a Super Bowl with this baseball mentality, which spring training is only, I would say, 40-some days away, less than 50 days away. So 48, I think 48 to be exact. So, I'm just saying, what if they employ this baseball, approach where Tua does really well, and then Fitzpatrick comes in, and he's a closer. He's a, Zach Britton or Mariano Rivera or whatever you want to call him. The Dolphins aren't playing like other teams. They tanked last year, like everybody thought. Oh, wait, they won 5 games and knocked the Patriots right out of, the number 1 seed, and then the Patriots got knocked out. So I'm just saying, the Dolphins don't play, to what everybody else thinks they should do. They play how they want to do it. Flores coaches how he wants.
I have one final question for you on this, and then we'll move on. But you're a receiver on the team. You keep getting these changes at quarterbacks. Who do you believe in if you're the receiver? Are you believing in Fitz? Are you believing in Tua?
Oh, you want to talk about receivers, do you? Oh, how about the receivers don't drop the ball for Tua? Because they don't
John, you're not answering the question. Forget who the receivers are. Let's pretend they're JB, Jake, and John. It doesn't really matter right now. What matters is he is getting subbed out mid-game for a guy who's 38 years old and his best days are behind him.
It doesn't matter. You're a professional. It doesn't matter. You play to win the game. You play with whoever's in.
But don't receivers build rapport with their quarterback? Like that's why, for example, Aaron Rodgers and I think I'm blanking on his name. Oh my God,
Brett Favre.
Listen.
No,
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams. Thank you. Why do you think they're so good? Of course, Devontae Adams is amazing, but there's a rapport between the two of them.
Practice.
That's very obvious.
John, DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers in football. He missed so many practices for the Texans, and look what he did on the field with Deshaun Watson.
Practices this year. 8.
Like I said to start the segment, people have gone missing in Vegas for less. Why Flores got back to Miami? He should have been fired. I don't like seeing coaches get fired.
It sounds
He
like
should have been fired.
we double
Once
the amount of
was
wins
enough.
as you guys, and you're just upset.
We're not upset.
Absolutely not.
It's not
John,
my team. It's not my problem in the end. It's
That's
your
why.
problem.
The
You played with
Dolphins
the
are
Super
winning.
Bowl.
The Dolphins are winning. And
Okay,
the thing,
At what cost?
In 5
At what
years,
cost?
if Tua's confidence is in the garbage and he's not starting, you look back and blame this. And that's what I'm saying. Look at Daniel Jones for the Giants. Do you think I enjoy watching that garbage quarterback play? No,
Well,
I can't stand it.
if
But
Tua
if I
has
know
such a
he
weak
might have a chance of being our future, if I know he has a chance of being our future potentially, I would rather suffer through the garbage for a few years to have a good quarterback in the end. And that's what the Dolphins need to start doing. Suffer through the bad times. He's a rookie. He's got to learn.
When you want to see how
learn from them.
When you want to see how he handles this adversity, because you don't want to.
This is the wrong kind of adversity. Adversity should be losing.
Hold on. Carson Wentz was great. He was 2017, just about MVP before he tore his ACL. Nobody knew that he was weak in the mind when it comes to how fragile he is at the quarterback position. Now we all know. Now he doesn't look like a franchise quarterback. So the Dolphins are figuring out if Tua is mentally able to handle this stuff. You got to know if your quarterback's strong enough. And so far, Tua's been great about this. He hasn't opened his mouth. He's been rooting for Fitzpatrick when he comes in. You know, the Dolphins are all about winning. Tua's all about winning. The Dolphins are all about winning. That's the culture that they're building is we're winning at no matter what it is. Doesn't matter if you're the quarterback, the running back. If you don't play well, you don't deserve.
John, I have one question for you before we wrap this up. Just one honest question. Would you rather the Dolphins win this year and just make the playoffs and realistically not make it past maybe the first or second round because they're not a Super Bowl contender with the other teams in the league? There's no question that there are better teams. Would you rather them do that or suck for the next 2 years, but then be a legitimate Super Bowl contender and potentially actually win championships for the next 7 or 8 years thereafter those 2 years of sucking? So
you worry about
really,
next year,
about 9 or 10 years.
You worry about next year. You play for this year.
Just answer the question. Would you rather them go to the playoffs this year,
probably
not go too far, or would you rather two years of suffering and then probably 7 or 8 years of legitimate?
I've been suffering for just about my entire life. So
what's the end goal? Is making the playoffs perfect example, and I'm sorry I'm gonna segue it to the NFC East. Do you think if the Giants made the playoffs at 6-10, I think it's a good year? Do you think I'm happy with that?
Should.
No.
Absolutely not. I'd rather them have gone 1-15 and got the first pick.
Remember the Giants squeaking into the playoffs and then winning a Super Bowl? Oh, yeah. They did that
was
twice.
at 9-7, John. That was at 9-7.
Yeah.
That was 9-7, not 6-10 at best. That was like, okay, at least you're above 500. You're somewhat respectable. At 6-10, you're a laughing stock. You understand how everybody that talks about the NFC East. I think we've all talked about it and we can all agree. When you talk about who you're facing from the NFC East, you're thinking, oh, this is just a team that gets the right to lose first round. It's not they're not going anywhere. Look at last year. Look at the year before. Look at teams that barely make it from the NFC East that are not actually good. They don't go anywhere.
Remember when the Giants made the playoffs the year they beat the Patriots? They were undefeated. The Giants had one of the worst defenses in football. It was almost dead last. So you could have considered them a laughing stock. And then their defense and their offense just kicked it up in the playoffs. You never know. You get in, you don't know what can happen. So
here's what we're dancing around, okay? I think everybody wants to see their team make the playoffs, but the question is at what cost? John, you're willing to sacrifice some Tua Tagovailoa playing time this year to make the playoffs and possibly hurt his confidence. But your argument is also
an NFL quarterback.
There you go. So, guys, you're not going to get through to John because that's how he feels. He feels that Tua should be able to handle this adversity. Totally get that. If
you're a quarterback and you don't have thick skin, well, then play a different position.
All right. Right before we get to the NFC East, I do want to talk about another quarterback in the AFC East who stinks, and that's Cam Newton. Looked really bad against Buffalo, has looked pretty putrid all year, got benched for Jarrett Stidham in that game. After the game, I heard him talking to the media. He basically said, I'm the first one in the door in the morning. I don't sleep. I put everything into this. I'm really frustrated. I'm not getting the result I deserve. I'm paraphrasing here, but that's essentially what he said. JB, let's start with you. Does Cam Newton play again in the NFL? And if so, is there any other team that you think would take a flyer on him?
I would in a second if I was a GM. Let him compete for a starting job. Maybe not, give him the job outright like the Patriots kind of did, but let him compete. But I think, he was, when he went to the sidelines, when they took him out, he was playing with the rubber bands with, I believe it was the shoulder. So I think he may be a little banged up, which may be part of the issue. I see John, John knows what it's like to be hit in the NFL, and have a bad offensive line in front of you.
He's been bad all year. Let's not make excuses now.
I'm not saying he's, Cam from 5 years ago, but listen, how can anyone not root for Cam? The guy is a stand-up individual.
Yeah, you also root for the Dolphins, and you're rooting for
He looks like a clown in those
suits. John, what you say does not necessarily matter. So just a reminder to anybody listening, John is saying he doesn't root for Cam, but he also roots for Tua to be benched most of the way through the game and have his career most likely ruined. Take that with a grain of salt. Take it as you will.
Cam played at Auburn, so.
And there's nothing wrong with Auburn.
I don't like Auburn. Anyway. I'm a Gators fan.
Anyway.
Jake, Jake, what do you think? Where does Newton play next year? Does he still play in the NFL?
It's possible he does. I mean, a team I look at seriously, it's very possible he plays maybe in my own division in Washington. If Washington, let's say Alex Smith, Alex Smith has had some injury recently with his calf, right? Don't know what he's going to do. Obviously, that's we have no idea what he's going to choose to do. Obviously, he had a very serious injury, and we know how far he fought to come back. But you never know what a guy's going to do in the offseason. Andrew Luck's a great example of a guy that just up and retired out of nowhere. And obviously, this wouldn't be up and out of nowhere, but it happens. Guys retire.
Well, very interesting. If he went to Washington, he's got that connection with Ron Rivera.
And that's exactly right. So, but I mean, guys retire. So my thing is, Dwayne Haskins, we all know what's happening there. We don't need to go over that and have a whole conversation about that. He's gone. So now you got Alex Smith, and we don't know what he may do in the offseason. Again, just like I said with Andrew Luck, guys retire. You never know. Cam Newton could come in and fight for a spot, and maybe, kind of like JB said, you don't have to give him the job, but he could fight for it. Washington's a totally possible team that if they're desperate for a quarterback, it wouldn't surprise me if they brought him in. I'm not saying he automatically gets a starting job right away, but he may be, Spenser mentioned Ron Rivera as well. Like, you don't know. I'm not saying that they guaranteed will bring him. And, I'm just saying it's possible. If they're desperate for a quarterback, I think Rivera might bring him to Washington. If they're desperate, but it depends. That's why I say it really depends on what we see happen with Alex Smith. I don't know.
John, you're clearly a huge Cam Newton fan based on your previous comments. What do you think happens to Cam?
I think if he's humble enough, he'll be a backup. If not, he'll be a free agent. Other than that, he's not starting anywhere. Nobody's dumb enough to start him after this year. The guy's done. The guy's in his 30s. He's taken a lot of hits. He's just banged up all the time. He's going to continue to be banged up. And then you got to build your offense around this run the ball, type of offense like that in Carolina, like they have in New England. And it's not working. It's done. It's not going to work. The big dude, just carrying the offense like that. It's just too many hits. Lamar Jackson can do it because he doesn't take those hits. He avoids those hits, and he's fast enough to where he can get away. Cam Newton had speed, but he was never as fast as Lamar Jackson.
I would say that the Patriots might take another flyer on him for another year, but there are so many other good quarterbacks out there that they can take. There's news that the Patriots are interested in trading for possibly or signing Matt Stafford. I'm not sure what his contract situation looks like. A Matt Ryan maybe in New England would make sense. What are these veteran quarterbacks who kind of can do what Phillip Rivers just did? Maybe Jimmy G goes back. There's a lot of options for the Patriots. I don't know. From what I've heard from people in New England, Cam embraced them so much this year, even though he was bad. I don't think people in Boston would hate if he came back, but it was honestly unfortunate.
Hate another losing season.
I get it, John, but it was obviously unfortunate because regardless of what you think of the guy, clearly he put a lot into this season. Clearly he cares about football, and it just didn't work out. And if he didn't care about football, he's not taking the veteran minimum to play. That's just not happening. Okay, and finally, to end the football segment for the day, it's time to talk NFC East football. I'm talking Giants, Cowboys, Washington football team, all with a real chance to make the playoffs. The only team that's out are the Eagles, and they can play spoiler if they beat Washington. So the way it works, if Washington wins, they're in. If Washington loses, the winner of the Giants-Cowboys game is in. Jake, let's start with you. What do you think happens on Sunday?
First of all, I got to say, this is not just the NFC East. This is the best division in football.
Thank you. Thank you.
Not even a question. I think we can all agree on something today. NFC
most competitive by far.
Division.
Yeah. That is true. No, but all jokes aside, I honestly see Washington winning the division still, because the truth is, here all they have to do: win their game. That's it. Win their game. It's as simple as that. If they win, it doesn't matter what anybody else does. Even if the Cowboys beat the Giants, which truthfully, in my honest opinion, is as much as I don't like to say it, I'm a Giants fan through and through. I don't know that the Giants are going to win this game. Cowboys have looked really great offensively recently, and I'm not sure that the Giants can stop that offense. Even though it's a good defense at times, just they haven't looked great recently. Not sure they can stop them. But really, more importantly, Washington has an awesome defense. I don't like to admit it, but they really, they're on a bad team, a great defense. Like that's the way I describe Washington. Great defense, terrible general team. And assuming Alex Smith plays, they will win. Now, the only way I see somebody other than Washington win the division is if Alex Smith does not play, which is still possible. There is a chance he doesn't play. We have talked about it. We don't know that he's going to play.
Is the guy under center in Washington.
He's the backup. Taylor Heineke's
right.
Well, they don't have anybody else right now because Smith probably won't play.
So if Smith doesn't play, I think it goes to the Cowboys. Because, again, I just said I don't think the Giants are going to beat the Cowboys. It's a sad truth and reality I have to live in. So even if the Eagles then beat Washington, Eagles are already out, and then that would mean the Cowboys would get the division. So really, I don't think the Giants have a chance. Eagles obviously already don't have a chance. So it's just going to be coming down to that Washington game. If Alex Smith plays, I give it to Washington. If Alex Smith does not play, I'm going to probably give it to the Cowboys because they're most likely going to beat the Giants this week.
JB, give me a scenario. Give me a scenario where the Giants pull through, man. I need it.
Oh, it's not happening. But this is what's going to happen. The Giants are going to win because that's just what the Giants are going to do. And the Giants are going to make us spend all of Sunday into Sunday night with hope. The Redskins, God only knows who's going to play quarterback at this point. But the Eagles are just that bad right now, and Hurts is going to do what he can to win the game, and he's playing well. But Washington's going to pull out the game at the end, and it's going to be 11 o'clock on Sunday. I'm going to have to wake up early for work Monday morning, miserable as I do after every season, except when miracles happen, like we catch things with our helmet and beat undefeated teams. Because we don't win games we should win. And we wouldn't be in this position at this point. We do stupid things. Yes, I would rather go 1-15 than be in this position right now to make the playoffs and lose in one game. Because at least next year I can get reinforcements instead of wasting Saquon Barkley's career. Because to me, that poor guy, his career is going to be wasted with the Giants because they've done nothing to benefit him. But that's all I got to say, Spencer.
I think that we're due for a shocking result on Sunday. I think that the Eagles will stun the Washington football team. Hurts will be great. The Eagles will win. And I think that somehow, some way, the New York football Giants will beat Dallas and get to the playoffs. Don't ask me how. Don't ask me why. But something in the air. Nothing is trending right for the Giants. It hasn't been for a few weeks now. Maybe Colt McCoy will see some time under center. Maybe that's what we need. I'm not sure. I am not a Daniel Jones believer, so I would be 100% fine with McCoy coming in, leading the Giants to the playoffs, and somehow we dump Jones in the next 2 years. But, yeah, that's my take right there. Giants make the playoffs. I do have a bet on them right now that they win the NFC East, so that's another reason why I'm hoping for that.
So if whoever wins this division, the Bucs travel to them. So I think the Bucs have to hope that it's Washington or the Cowboys because they didn't look very good against the Giants the last time. The Giants almost had their number, and if you're the Bucs, you don't want to go against the Giants again, who almost beat you the first time. It doesn't matter how bad they're playing now. The Giants have had Tom Brady's number before. So they've actually had his number twice. So I don't think Tom Brady wants to see the Giants. I think he'd rather see the other two teams but I don't think he wants to see Old Blue. And by the way, speaking of the NFC East, I thought of something today. What if Dak goes to Washington after the season?
Oh, please, God, no.
What if he goes to Washington to stick it to Dallas, who won't give him a long-term deal? They need a quarterback, and if they get a quarterback, one more playmaker, that team could be really deadly. They have great defense. They have some playmakers on offense. They just need a good quarterback. If Dak goes to stick it to them, I'm just saying, this is something I thought of today. Maybe Washington could end up being scary next year.
I don't know if Jerry Jones lets that happen. Yeah.
I was going to say Jerry Jones. He lives in Jerry's world. We all know that. Don't think he's going to let that happen.
Someone brought it up early in the episode. Final thing to round out football. I feel bad for Dwayne Haskins. Got cut after a bad game. Had no mask at a strip club. Sorry, bud. That's the way the NFL works, especially when you're not that good at football.
Haskins.
All right, guys. That's what I got for football. JB, what do we have for basketball?
Really simple. The season started, and my favorite player against my favorite team last night came down really hard, and has a severe grade 2 sprained ankle, is going to be out 3 to 5 weeks, and luckily that's all it was. I know, Spencer, you were watching the game when it happened. What was your first thoughts?
Yeah, John Morant gets up high on his jump shot, so he was up in the air. He came down on Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot's foot and sprained his ankle. It looked really bad because of his reaction. He hopped like the quickest hop you will ever see someone do to the sideline. He was in excruciating pain. They showed the replay, but it did look like a really bad sprain, which is a good thing, and that's what it turned out to be. I've seen reports that he should be back in 3 to 5 weeks, I think, which is not that bad compared to what we've seen from a lot of other players in the NBA. He tweeted something positive as well, but look, the Grizzlies were able to kind of rally around that injury and beat the Nets last night. Albeit it was a Nets team without KD and Kyrie. They were both resting. But I think the Grizzlies will be all right if he's gone for a few weeks. They got some playmakers on that team and some solid role guys that can step up and fill in for it with his absence.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a pretty gruesome injury the way it looked. They had to bring the wheelchair out for him. I heard about it with you tweeting, when you tweeted out prayers for Ja, I was like, uh-oh. I wasn't really too happy. And then, I figured the Nets would come and win the game because they haven't been playing great. I know Durant missed last night, but it was just pretty ugly. So what are you guys' overall impression of the first week and a half of NBA so far? What have you guys noticed?
I'm just enjoying having it back. Honestly, more than anything. Like, you want to ask me my initial impression? I'm just happy it's back. You know what? It's nice just on a Tuesday night like tonight when we're recording. Hey, there's something to watch now, sports wise. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I've had football for a while. Baseball hasn't been on in a couple months. Hey, it's nice to have something else there. Even though my Knicks are doing what they normally do and they kind of stink as per usual.
They're 2-2. They're 2-2 right now.
Yeah, but when I say they stink, I mean they're not like they're 2-2, but they've done this many times. I've watched them play. They're like, nothing special yet. I know the Knicks won't be very good. So when I say they stink, I just mean like, okay, their record's 2-2. That's wonderful now, but not a great team. But just the point is, hey, I'm happy to have just have it back. You know what? Something else to watch more than anything. Seriously, loving that.
Yeah, I mean it's been pretty interesting so far. The Nets have been struggling. They lost 2 in a row. Durant missed the last game, so I'm curious to see how they rebound. Spencer, what are you seeing from the Nets so far?
I mean, the 2 games they lost, they were very close games. The first game against Charlotte, they were a KD jumper away from tying the game. Last night, Karis LeVert missed a shot in regulation to win the game, and then they lost in overtime. They're going to be just fine. I'll tell you guys some quick tidbits about the NBA right now. We know nothing in the East, absolutely nothing, because the Bucks have been losing games left and right. I think they're 500 now. Lost to the Knicks. Cleveland was undefeated before this game tonight where they lost to the Knicks. The Pacers are undefeated. The Magic were undefeated last time I checked. So we really don't know anything because obviously it's not like we're going to have, our top 4 seeds, the Cavs, the Pacers, the Magic, and another mediocre team that's 500. In the West, the Lakers are still the best team in the league. I don't think that's debatable. The Clippers, when they're not resting their guys, are decent. When they do rest their guys, they lose by 50. And, through 3 or 4 games, Trae Young, this is an Atlanta station. Trae Young has been really good, MVP level good. I might say the Hawks are another team I forgot to mention. They were undefeated before they played tonight. So shout out to Trae Young. I don't know if you guys have seen his beef with Grayson Allen, but it is hilarious. I am team Trae Young because I think
Grayson Allen not start something. My gosh, I can't stand that guy.
Well,
how him at Duke. Get him out of here.
How it started
Get Grayson Allen out of here.
There was a play where they were playing against each other, and I guess Allen flailed out his leg. And he didn't make contact with Trae Young.
At Duke.
Correct. So Trae Young posted on Twitter. He goes, I'm just going to leave this right here. You guys tell me what happened. And Gordon Hayward, Grayson Allen responds. He goes, damn, that looked really painful. I'm sorry. Did I hurt you, bro? Or something along those lines. But it was very funny back and forth. And Grayson Allen's going to have to step up because he's probably going to start in John Morant's place. But no, my point is, in the East, nothing. In the West, LeBron and the Lakers are the best, and shout out to Trae Young. Him and Kyrie Irving right now look like the 2 best point guards in the league.
Trae Young is a phenomenal young player. If I probably saw him more, he would probably be like John Morant to me. I just have spent more time watching Ja. So that's why I think I like Ja more, but I am very high on Trae. I just haven't had a chance to watch him. I mean, the Hawks are playing great basketball, and I'm glad the city of Atlanta has a good basketball team again. They deserve it. The Hawks, I mean, I remember when I was young, Dominique playing and Spud Webb, and they were a fun team to watch. I'm glad that, the Hawks are starting to bring that back to the city, and it's going to be interesting to see where they go.
Early 2000s, Sharif Abdur-Rahim, can't forget him.
Yep. And then Jake, your Knicks are 2-2. They beat the Bucks. They destroyed the Bucks. So, and RJ Barrett looks like he's, going to be a good player. I haven't seen Obi play much yet. He's hurt. I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, the Knicks can't do themselves any favors with the draft. I mean, I don't get it at all. The Clippers, they baffle me. The Clippers always baffle me because they should be winning, and they do what the Clippers do. Denver's been playing sloppy. Has anyone noticed that?
What's their record right now? Are they 1-2, 2-2?
I believe it's 1-2, but they lost the first game that they should have won, and then they just been playing close games. They just turning the ball over, real sloppy play, not crisp. Has anyone seen Phoenix so far this year?
Seen a little bit, just a tiny bit here and there.
I'm curious to see if they could continue throughout the year like they ended last year because they were hot, in the bubble.
I mean, I said we know nothing about the East. The West right now, the top 8 teams, it's the Pelicans, the Timberwolves, the Clippers, the Jazz, the Suns, the Kings, the Spurs, and the Trailblazers. Sitting in 9th place are the Lakers at 2-2. It's very early in the season. Wins and losses don't mean a ton right now. It's more about who looks good, who's gelling. And, I mean, we'll know a lot more in these next few weeks. I think by the end of January, we'll have a much better idea of who's a contender and who's a pretender.
Oh, I definitely agree. I would say this is almost like extended training camp this week and next week. And then by then we should be into, what the guys should be in regular season. But I'm excited to see the Knicks at 500. I'd like to see them do well because I think the New York City would be phenomenal if both Brooklyn and the Knicks do well. Could you imagine the city going through that? I mean,
imagine those 2 teams playing each other in the first round of the playoffs. It's a possibility.
I mean, the Knicks aren't going to be nowhere near the Nets. I mean, Durant and Irving, that's another level. But imagine if the Knicks, get somebody to go with RJ and build up, and Durant's still around with Kyrie in a couple of years. That could be something to see. That's what New York needs, some good rivalries. John, what's going on in baseball? There's a lot of moves going on.
Yeah, the biggest one, Blake Snell got traded to the Padres from the Rays. Now, I thought this one was interesting because I wondered if Snell wanted out of Tampa Bay after the fiasco in the World Series. Maybe he wanted to get back at the Dodgers by going to the Padres and then have a chance to get at the Dodgers, a bunch of times, 18 times, I think, per year. I don't know why, if you're the Rays, you trade your best pitcher, your best player, basically, a Cy Young winner. You just trade him away for prospects. Like, what are you doing? Like, the guy helped carry you to a World Series, and you need him when you play the Yankees 18 times a year and then in the postseason. You need that guy. And then you trade him for prospects. Like, you're just handing the Yankees the series. If you play them in the playoffs, they're just going to beat you because you need that ace 3 times in that series. So I don't know.
Do they though?
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah, they do. They do. Definitely do.
I don't know. They seem to.
You're not going to beat the Yankees if you don't have
year.
an ace. You're not going to beat the
I don't
Yankees that way. So that was stupid of them, I think. Maybe there's bad blood between Snell and the Rays. But that's on, Kevin Cash. That was just stupid of the Rays. Now they're trading away, not only World Series thing, but good for the Padres. They get a fantastic player, one of the best pitchers in the league. And I guess the Rays just think they're in rebuild mode again. Good luck going back to the bottom of
But
AL
again, $40 million, and we still lost in the playoffs with an ace. So I don't think that
I think you guys will be fine. You guys will be fine.
Yeah. Of course, because we're going to spend $200 million, but
the Rays don't have that.
Fine. Right, and they're still going to be fine because
it's hard to find Blake Snell just sitting around. Cy Young winners just laying around. And a guy that a left-handed horse that you can rely on 3 times in a 7-game series. Hard to find them lying around.
And them and the A's have done it consistently over the last 5 years, and the A's have even done it longer. So
the Rays aren't getting back to the World Series. They're just not. You don't get rid of your best player, for prospects. These prospects won't help you now.
I don't know. I don't discount the Rays. They have their plans. I disagree with it, but I certainly, after spending $40 million on Garrett Cole, the fact that he gave up a hit at an elimination game, wasted money. So
one hit.
Any hits, $40 million, you throw a no-hitter. That's all I got to say.
It's harder to do than you think.
You don't give up a run. I'll give you a hit. No runs. Not for $40 million.
I'm very excited for the 30 for 30 that eventually comes out about that Dodgers World Series from last year, where they show the whole Blake Snell. It was Blake Snell who got benched, right?
Yep.
And they show him being taken out. And he's being interviewed, and he's going, man, I looked at Kevin Cash, and I said, I'm not here next year. I'm out. No way I was going back to that franchise who benched me after I was pitching an almost perfect game.
One hit after 5 innings, I think it was, no runs. Like, come on.
It's pretty good.
Very excited for that 30 for 30.
The 2 things are that I want to talk about. John, first of all, you said there's bad blood. Absolutely. I'm telling you for a fact you're right about that. I haven't agreed with you a lot today, but I agree with that 100%. He's pissed, and I would be too. If you're having one of the best games of your career, wouldn't you be a little bit upset?
An elimination game in the World Series.
Like, I'm just saying, wouldn't you be a little bit upset?
But wait, why would it matter? They benched him. He should be okay. Just like Tua. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's the World Series, and he's throwing a one-hitter.
It doesn't matter. He should be okay. He should be fine.
It's a one-hitter in Game 6 of the World Series.
Just look at Tua. He'll be fine.
Against a team that has that kind of payroll, baseball's a completely different animal.
You compared the whole situation to baseball earlier.
But Blake Snell's won a Cy Young. Tua hasn't won an MVP.
Tua's won a Heisman.
That's not the NFL. That's not the NFL. It's not anywhere the same.
Well, we don't know what Tua is yet, really. We haven't seen him play a full game in the past week.
Blake Snell's won a Cy Young. He carried you to a World Series. He had a one-hitter in Game 6 through 5 innings against a gigantic payroll.
John, I don't think you realize we're just messing with you.
I know, but it's stupid. Like, why would
you do what they did to Tua? I know. But anyway, I quickly want to say this is the other thing. Good for the Padres, man. I mean, I know this is a team we talked about going into the playoffs. We weren't sure how good they were going to be. We knew they would be good, but we weren't sure would they be able to win, right? Well, now I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know. This is going to be a really good team. Slam Diego is great, but now you have Clevenger and Blake Snell as your top 2 pitchers. It feels like what the Rays just did, basically having 2 awesome pitchers at the start of your rotation. Charlie Morton and Blake Snell, right? Similar concept, 2 great pitchers. Padres are going to be fun. I mean, I'm not naming anybody a champion yet, of course. Season got to be played. Things happen. You never know. But the Padres are going to be really fun to watch, I think. Having basically two ace pitchers on that lineup as the top two guys, that is going to be so exciting. And I cannot wait to see that.
Tatis is only going to get better.
Right.
Ooh, that's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun team to watch. I just had to point that out. That is going to be so fun to watch.
Ridiculous. They're and what better city to want to go move to and play baseball where the weather is perfect 365 days a year. You don't have to go somewhere else in the winter to stay warm. It's not too hot in the summer. You got the beach 2 hours away from nice mountains. If you like the cold weather, you can go up, by LA. They have some mountains. What a perfect place to be traded to or sign.
In a non-COVID year, they actually have fans with the Padres. The Rays never have fans. COVID or not, they never have fans. So at least you get to have people rooting for them finally.
This is true too. It's going to be fun. Like I said, it's going to be a fun season for him and for Padres fans. And hopefully
that
get first again.
That means it's almost time for the Yankees to win another World Series.
Yeah, I think so, considering the Rays may have just handed over the division like that.
And usually when the Padres get there, we seem to do pretty well. So
yeah, we're not worried about that point.
I like the Braves. Atlanta, baby. Atlanta Braves got something
Speaking
cooking.
of Atlanta, we have Atlanta news that we want to share.
All right, who's breaking the news?
John, would you like to have a long show?
So this will be our last week on Real 1100. Sadly, it is. Our contracts are up. We've decided to part ways. You can still continue to follow Journey with the Jays on all our social media platforms: YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just search Journey with the Jays. You'll find us, and just continue to follow along with us. Find out where our next journey is in regards to radio.
And it's going to be something. Pay attention. And until then, watch us live on Tuesdays. What better way? You don't have to wait 2 days to get the news. You can get the day's news now. Tuesdays, 8:30. YouTube and Facebook Live. So all of our Atlanta friends and family that we made, make sure you're coming down and listening.
I think that's it. Unless there's anything else, guys, I think that's it for the show and for our time in Atlanta.
Well, it's been a pleasure,
It's
Atlanta.
been real. It's been real, 1100 AM radio.
Everybody have a happy new year, and hopefully you follow us, and we'll see you guys next week.